Welcome to my channel, HFY Humanity. Let's begin. The day Vornak decided to steal a human child was, without question, the single most catastrophic decision made by any living creature in the last 400 years of galactic recorded history. And that is saying something, because 400 years ago, a Grellian diplomat accidentally sneezed on the Empress of the Tyron Collective, and 3 star systems burned. But this was worse. Vornak was not a bad person per se. He was just impressively stupid. A Druvian scout, 3rd class, with antenna that pointed slightly in the wrong direction, which many of his colleagues quietly believed explained everything about him. He had been stationed aboard the survey vessel Vecca's Pride, assigned to document primitive species on the Outer Rim. Standard work. Boring work. The kind of work you give to someone whose only other qualification has not yet caused a war. His commanding officer, Captain Sreel, a tall, 4-armed Druvian female with the permanent expression of someone who had been warned about Vornak specifically, had given him one instruction before he descended to the 3rd planet of the Solari system. Observe. Do not touch. Do not take. Do not breathe on anything. Come back. Simple. 4 rules. Even Vornak should have managed 4 rules. He managed 0. It started, as most disasters do, with good intentions. Vornak had been crouched behind a cluster of vegetation near one of the humans' larger population centers, dutifully recording footage of the locals performing their strange daily rituals. The buying of things, the throwing of things, the yelling at each other from inside metal transportation pods. Fascinating creatures, really. Loud, relentlessly loud. Then he saw the small one, a human child, sitting alone on a flat, elevated surface outside a building, eating something orange and crunchy, completely unbothered by the universe. The child had large eyes, messy dark hair, and was wearing a garment with a picture of a yellow creature on it. The child looked up directly at Vornak's hiding spot and smiled. Vornak's antenna twitched. His translator caught the sound the child made next. Kitty. The child thought he was a kitty. Vornak did not know what a kitty was. He looked it up on his scanner. A small, domesticated predator kept as a companion. He stared at the screen. He looked back at the child. He looked at his own reflection in the scanner. He could see the resemblance, he supposed. This, Vornak would later explain from inside a containment cell, is when things became complicated. The child walked over, grabbed Vornak by what it presumably thought was fur, and said, "Come home, kitty." And Vornak, who was a fully grown interstellar scout with 17 years of field training, allowed a 40-pound human child to pick him up and carry him into a building. He told himself it was for research purposes. It was not for research purposes. By the time he activated his emergency beacon, he was sitting in a human dwelling, wrapped in a cloth with pictures of small stars on it, being fed pieces of soft yellow food by a child named Benji. The food was, in all honesty, extraordinary. He would think about that food for years. But that is not the point. The point is that the beacon signal reached the Vecca's Pride at exactly 1400 hours Druvian Standard Time. Captain Sreel read the emergency coordinates. Then she read the attached note Vornak had included with the beacon, because Vornak was the kind of person who included notes with emergency beacons. The note said, "I am safe. I am inside a human structure. A small human has adopted me. The food here is very good. I think I may be a pet. Please advise." Sreel stood completely still for 6 full seconds. Then she turned to her crew, all of whom were already looking at her with the wide, haunted eyes of people who understood exactly what had just happened. "Hey," she said, slowly, took a human child's pet slot. Nobody laughed. Not because it was not funny. It was technically a little funny. But everyone on that bridge had read the Galactic intelligence files on humans. Everyone had seen the behavioral threat assessments. Everyone knew the single most consistent finding across 200 years of human study. Humans, as a species, were gentle, creative, adaptable, and overwhelmingly non-aggressive. Unless you took something they loved. Then they became something the files described, in dry academic language, as disproportionately motivated. The military translator in the corner of the bridge, a veteran named Doko who had survived the Finn border conflict, looked up from his console. "Captain," he said, very quietly. "A human female just filed a missing pet report." "How long ago?" "For minutes." "How many humans are currently searching the local area?" Doko checked his screen, checked it again, blinked. 47, Captain. And climbing. Sreel closed her eyes. "Give me Vornak," she said. "And someone find out if our shields can stop a human mother." Nobody answered that second part, because nobody wanted to find out. The human mother's name was Priya Nair. She was 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighed approximately 130 pounds, and had, according to Doko's frantic research, spent the last 3 years working as a kindergarten teacher. She coached a small youth football team on weekends. She baked bread. She had a garden with tomatoes in it. She was, by every reasonable metric, a completely ordinary human woman. She had also, in the 11 minutes since discovering her son Benji was missing, organized a neighborhood search party, contacted 2 local law enforcement agencies, posted on 4 separate community networks, and was currently standing in the street outside her building with a flashlight, calling a name that the translation software rendered as Vornak, but was almost certainly the word kitty. "She is efficient," Doko said, with the tone of a man slowly realizing he had underestimated something. "All humans are efficient when they want something," said Lieutenant Pekka, the ship's xenobiologist, who was gripping her console with both hands and watching the surface feed like it was a horror broadcast. "That is literally in the files, Doko." Chapter 1. Page 1. First sentence. I skimmed Chapter 1. Everyone schemes Chapter 1, and then everyone ends up in situations like this. Captain Sreel was not listening to either of them. She was on a direct comm link with Vornak, who was still inside the human dwelling, still wrapped in the star-patterned cloth, and who had just informed her, with what sounded suspiciously like contentment, that Benji had fallen asleep holding him. "Vornak," Sreel said, in the very specific voice she reserved for moments when violence was not yet authorized but was being seriously considered. "You're going to stand up, walk to the nearest exit, and leave that building. Quietly. Right now. The child is asleep on me, Captain." "Then move him." "I cannot move him. He has my antenna." "Vornak." "He is very strong for a small creature." "Vornak." A pause. The sound of something orange and crunchy being chewed. Sreel closed her eyes again. She was doing that a lot tonight. "Captain," said Doko, newly urgent. The human female is now speaking to a male human in a bright yellow garment. The male has a large illumination tool and what appears to be a camera. He is pointing it at Benji's window. "A journalist," Pekka whispered. She called a journalist. "It has been 14 minutes, Sreel said, to no one in particular. 14 minutes, and she has mobilized law enforcement, a community search network, and media coverage." She turned to look at Pekka directly. "At what point do they typically escalate to government involvement?" Pekka pulled up her files, flipped through them, and went very pale. "They already have," she said. "Local law enforcement automatically notifies regional authorities for missing children. Regional authorities notify national authorities if the child is not found within the hour." She kept reading, kept going paler. "And if national authorities flag the situation as unusual, which they will, because 47 people searching for a cat they cannot find is unusual, they notify." "Who?" Sreel asked. Pekka looked up. "Captain, humans have an entire agency dedicated specifically to unusual events they cannot explain." The bridge was very quiet. "Of course they do," Sreel said. It was at this point that Vornak, apparently, shifted position, because the next sound on the comm link was not Vornak's voice. It was a small, very awake, very alert human child saying, "You talk funny, kitty." And then Benji Nair walked to his window, looked outside, saw his mother standing in the street below, and screamed with the full, unrestrained joy of a 4-year-old who has spotted the person he loves most in the world. "Mama! Mama, I found a kitty! Mama, the kitty talks!" Every head on the bridge of the Veka's Pride turned toward the surface feed simultaneously. Priya Nair looked up at her son's window. Then she looked at the thing standing next to her son. Then she was already moving, already inside, already on the stairs, because Priya Nair did not stop to process things when her child was involved. She processed them while running. "Evacuate him," Sreel shouted. "The transporter locks on a biosignatures, but the child is holding his antenna. The lock keeps grabbing them both," the tech officer yelled back. "Then grab them both and sort it out up here." 2 seconds later, Vornak and Benji Nair materialized simultaneously on the transporter pad of the Veka's Pride. Benji looked around the ship with enormous, delighted eyes. "Whoa," he said. Then, downstairs, a door flew open. Priya Nair stood in her son's bedroom, breathing hard, flashlight in hand, and found it completely empty except for a single orange cracker on the floor. The silence that followed lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then Priya Nair said, in a voice so controlled it was somehow more frightening than screaming, "Where's my son?" On the ship, nobody spoke. Even Vornak had the basic survival intelligence to stay quiet. Doko was watching his scanner. His hands had stopped moving. "Captain," he said. "She is looking up." And she was. Priya Nair was standing in that empty room, and she was looking directly up at the ceiling, at nothing visible, at nothing explainable, with the calm, absolute certainty of a woman who had already decided what had happened and was simply deciding what to do about it. Pekka made a sound that was not quite a word. "She knows," Doko said. "She cannot know," Sreel said. "She has no instruments, no scanner, no training. She knows," Doko repeated. Priya Nair took out her phone. She dialed a number. When someone answered, she said quietly and clearly, "I need to report a missing child. I believe he was taken." "No, not by a person." A pause. "I think you know what I mean." The line went very, very still. Sreel made a decision. Open a channel to the surface. Direct line. Her communications device. "Captain, that is first contact protocol. We cannot just..." "Open the channel." The comm crackled. Priya Nair looked at her phone screen. The number on it was not a number. It was something that phones did not display. She answered it anyway, because she was that kind of person. "Hello," said Captain Sreel, in carefully translated human language. "This is Captain Sreel of the survey vessel Veka's Pride. Your child is safe. He is eating crackers. We owe you a very significant apology and possibly several explanations. Also, we are returning one extremely stupid scout who will be facing serious disciplinary action." Silence. "Is my son okay?" Priya said. "He is completely unharmed. He named one of my crew members. We are not sure how to feel about that." Another silence. "Shorter this time. I want it back in 5 minutes," Priya Nair said. "And then I want to talk to whoever decided my son was a reasonable thing to pick up." "That is fair," Sreel said. "And I want the crackers too. Benji will want them." Sreel looked across the bridge. Nobody was looking at her. Everyone was looking at their consoles with the focused intensity of people trying very hard not to laugh. "Yes," Sreel said. "We will include the crackers." Benji Nair was returned safely, crackers and all, to his bedroom 14 minutes and 32 seconds after he had left it. He told his mother, with total confidence, that space was cool and the Talking Kitties boss was nice. Vornak was confined to quarters for 90 days, stripped of field privileges, and made to write a 7,000-word formal report titled, "Why I Should Not Have Done That." He wrote it. He submitted it. He included, at the end, a personal note that said the crackers had genuinely been worth it. Priya Nair signed the first official non-disclosure and first contact acknowledgement document in human history, received a formal Galactic apology, and was later quietly informed she had been listed in Galactic intelligence files under the threat assessment category labeled, in translation, as "do not annoy under any circumstances." She printed it out. She framed it. She hung it in the kitchen, right next to Benji's drawings. And somewhere in the outer rim, a Druvian scout sat in his quarters, wrapped in a borrowed star-pattern cloth that he had accidentally kept, eating the last of the orange crackers and deciding that, all things considered, humans were his favorite species. He would never, ever say that out loud, but he meant it completely.